ahead and get started. It is 12:01, and I know you have great material for us today, David, so we'll kick this off. But just wanted to say hello, everybody, to our WIC Wednesday event. I am Cynthia Cross, and I am the Vice President with WIC Heartland Chapter. I wanted to give a quick thank you to our sponsors. We have Platinum sponsor Cox Communications. Our gold sponsors are Pro Labs and Add-On. And our silver sponsors are Multilink and Power and Tel. We'd like to welcome our Heartland members as well as any guests that we have joining today. Whether you're a member or not, you're always welcome to visit our website at wictheartland.org for a full list of upcoming events as well as information on becoming a member if you're not. We also encourage you guys to go on and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn. You can just do a search for WIC Heartland Chapter, and you can find us, and we'll always have events listed on there as well. So we also have a YouTube channel, thanks to Carrie from Membership, and it has several videos that'll walk you through how to access all your member benefits and any additional information for you to utilize them. So with that, I will not take more time. I will turn it over to our famous speaker, David. I hope you guys enjoyed last month's webinar. I really enjoyed it, and it was a lot of simplistic discussion, but it was very good timing for me. So I'm looking forward to today as well, David. So I will turn it over to you. And anybody else that wants to turn your camera on, David would love to see your shining faces and make him feel like he actually has an audience. So
it's one of the most challenging things about doing webinars is sometimes you feel like you're just alone in your office talking to your computer screen. It's a very strange sensation. But if there has been one valuable thing to come out of our stay-at-home initiative, I feel like it's people's willingness to use the technology and share their cameras. So I can see your smiles. I appreciate that. Please do mute yourself so we don't have that going on. But hopefully there'll be some time in the presentation today. I'm going to encourage a little more participation than we had last time. So hopefully you guys are up for that. If not, I won't scold you, but let's just get started. Normally I would spend a lot of time going over kind of my journey and why I'm here to talk to you about everyday lessons. I happen to know that most of you were on last month's webinar, so this is part 2 for you. That's a really cool thing for me personally, because that tells me you weren't bored to tears last time. You actually knew what you were in for today, and you still showed up. So thank you very much for that. For those of you who haven't heard about my journey, I'm going to recap it. I think it's important that you understand a little bit about who is speaking to you for the next half hour or so, and where I came from to get where I'm at today. So just real quick, my professional resume, if you will, is for my day job, I am an internet marketing consultant, sales trainer, and educator, which basically means I travel all over the country and I teach people about targeted advertising, geofencing, paid search, SEO, some of those things related to internet marketing. But what happened was I spent a lot of time developing my craft and focusing on my career. And the result of that was that I wasn't doing so good at home, which we'll talk about.
You should come listen to this webinar with me.
Yes, you should.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. That's what happens. Don't sweat the small stuff. No worry. All right. So anyway, I'm an author. I'm a podcaster. I hope you guys will check out my podcast after spending some time with me today. Personally, I'm a big reader. I love going off-roading. You're going to hear a little bit about that today. I live in Kansas City, and so barbecue is a big part of my life as well, thus the extra chin I have right here. And I've been married for 22 years, and I have 2 kids. Yay! And if you were to ask who I'm applauding, it's not me, because the only reason I've been married this long is because I have married the most patient woman on the planet. She puts up with me and put up with me during a time when I was really difficult to put up with. So in fact, I'm going to tell you just real briefly about my journey from grumpy to grateful. Basically what happened was I got to my late 40s. This was in 2018, and I was angry a lot. I was having some success at work, So I was getting some recognition in my career and things were going well on that part of my life, but at home, not so well. I was critical of my family. Everything irritated me. And maybe you've felt like this yourself. Maybe you are married to someone who feels like this. And it's difficult to be around this person. In fact, my family used the phrase walking on eggshells to describe what it was like to be around me. And then I had this big catalytic moment where I went out of town and they barely said goodbye to me. Like they barely looked up from their phones. They're like, oh, Dad's leaving. Bye, see you in a few days. They didn't know when I'd be back. They didn't know how long I was going to be gone. They didn't know where I was going. They didn't really care. But that was all on me. I had brought that on myself because I was so difficult to live with and be around. So I'm on this plane and I realize they're probably going to be happier without me for the next few days. And that was kind of a hard pill to swallow. That was a tough thing to hear my own voice say to me. And so I decided I was going to make a change. Now, in my life, I had used self-improvement books to further my career. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Think and Grow Rich, The 7 Habits of Successful People. And all these things have served me well in my professional life. Well, it was time for me to decide how to change my personal life. And so I decided I was going to go on this journey where I was going to read from a positive book, something that helped me grow from the inside out or helped me deal with my family. I read a lot of books about being the parent of a teenager. So if you have teenagers, I've got all the best books for that. And the other thing I was going to do was not just read these books. I was going to take the lessons that I learned from them. And I call them everyday lessons because some of them are so common sense. They're not super secret. They're not magical. They're just everyday lessons that we need to be reminded of. I'm so glad you guys are here with me today because that's what I want to do for you. Remind you of some things that you maybe already know and give you some cool tips. But I decided I was going to act on those lessons. And so what I did was I would write a little note on my wrist. And every time I would look down at that note, it would remind me to act on the lesson. It might say patience. It might say keep your temper in check. It might be, hug your kids, give them more praise, whatever that might be. And so I went on this journey and a lot of things changed. It's been 2 years since I wrote that book and I'm happy to report happy ending. I still have a lot of work to do. I still lose my temper on occasion, but it is much more pleasant to be around me and my family is much happier because of the changes that I implemented. Now, the big theme for me was don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. And it's one of the very first books I read on my journey, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. If you haven't read this, please pick it up. It is brilliant and beautiful. Each chapter is like 2 pages long, and it's full of everyday lessons. And I'm going to show you a video. And the reason I want to show you this is because it's first of all, it's funny as crap. It's going to make you laugh. I'm totally going to self-deprecate and pick on myself. But the other reason, well, I'll wait till after I show it to you. Let me set it up. I have a dash cam on my Jeep dash, which allows me to film in case I'm in an accident or if I'm doing something really cool off-road. But it also films inside the car too. So it films the driver and the passengers. And I have a Jeep Wrangler, and the top on a Jeep Wrangler either comes completely off or you can just kind of flip it back like a lid to open up, to kind of let the sky in. But if you do that, then the top, the canvas part, is kind of just sitting up on top of the Jeep. Now, keep that in mind as you watch this. The transition could be a little challenging, but bear with me. Share screen. Here we go.
Next thing. Are you okay?
Oh, I just up my heart with my soft top. Oh,
Did you just wreck?
Wait, watch it again. It's even better the second time. I apologize for the profanity.
Oh, I just up my heart with my soft top. Oh,
Did you just wreck?
no, I pulled into the garage with the soft top.
And I'm on the phone with my buddy, you know. So that means, oh, all right. So why did I share that with you? The old version of me would have been so angry, right? Just furious. But I have to tell you that I was actually posting that video on social media later that day because I had gone through this journey and I had decided to adopt this mental attitude of not sweating the small stuff. I realized that the $4,000 damage I did to my Jeep and the $500 damage I did to my garage was just small stuff. You know, nobody got hurt. Insurance helped cover a lot of that. You know, the biggest fear I had was my wife coming home and seeing the Jeep and the garage all askew. You know what she did? I told you she's an angel. She's an absolute angel. She wrapped her arms around me and she said, "Don't worry, sweetie, they insure stupid." Yes, this is my wife. All right, so don't sweat the small stuff. If you get nothing else out of this today, man, I hope that is a lesson that you will consider adopting. All right, now I'm going to dive into the 3 lessons. Oh, I love it. You guys are letting me know how you feel in the chat. Thank you. That's so cool. I appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to dive into the 3 lessons I have for you today. And I've got some notes here, so forgive me if you hear some paper rustling, but I didn't want to miss anything. The main theme of this one is sometimes you're just down. Now, this was a hard lesson for me to learn because, well, let me back up a little bit. At work, they gave me a nickname. They call me Positron. Positron because I'm pretty positive at work most of the time. And I like superheroes, so that was my superhero name they gave me, right? Positron. But I got to tell you, lately, I have not been feeling very positron. And maybe you're feeling the same way, right? With the pandemic, the protests, the political environment, the world just feels like it's falling apart, right? It's hard to stay positive in 2020, right? People are calling it the worst year in their whole lives. And here's the thing. When we feel pain, we look for a reason for that pain. So for example, if your knee is hurting, you're thinking, God, my knee is hurt. Why does my knee hurt so bad? And then you think, oh yes, it's because I just ran 3 miles yesterday and I didn't stretch good before. It's been a while since I've run, whatever that is. We feel pain and we look for a reason. And what I've discovered is that when we're in a bad mood, when we're feeling down, we also look for a reason. We look for something to assign to that mood. And for me, before my journey, I used to blame other people around me, right? I was mad. I was in a bad mood because my wife wasn't paying enough attention to me, and these aren't real examples because she's amazing, but maybe your son is constantly playing video games and he needs to go get a job. Maybe your daughter is, failing algebra, or she's not doing her chores, or maybe you just are sick of lying politicians and bad weather and, just the world just is bringing you down, and that's why you're in a bad mood. It has this snowball effect and it kind of leads you to just feel negative, right? But one of the chapters in here, is literally called "Be aware of your moods and don't allow yourself to be fooled by the low ones." I'm going to repeat that because it's so important. Be aware of your moods and don't allow yourself to be fooled by the low ones. And here's what it basically says. Your circumstances are not the reason for your mood. It's how we react to them that determines our mood. We have power over how we feel and how we react to our circumstances. And I can actually prove this is true. I want you to think about a time when you were sad or angry or upset and you were in these terrible circumstances. Maybe you had your own car accident. Maybe you got fired from your job. Maybe you just got your cholesterol test back from the doctor, right? And you're in this terrible mood because of all these things that are going on. But let me ask you, tell me the truth. Did you discover that even without those circumstances changing, that you eventually found yourself in a good mood again? Maybe an hour later, maybe a day later, you're still fired, but you've found a way to be happy again, right? And this happens in our lives. In fact, I'm going to tell you about someone very special to me. My niece, who is also 15, last year was diagnosed with cancer. And I remember going to see her, and she had her ups and her downs, but more often than not, when I saw her, she was smiling. She had on her purple wig and she was just working that wig, right? And I would talk to her and I'd say, how are you doing? And she said something I'll never forget. She said, Uncle Dave, I'm going to be a cancer survivor. Nothing I do in my life is going to be this hard. So once I get past this, I got it made. And I thought, what a brilliant attitude. What an amazing outlook, because her circumstances were way worse than anything that I was dealing with. And yet my mood was terrible. Like, where do I get the right to be unhappy when she's dealing with what she's dealing with and still facing it with strength and character, right? So I want you to think about that. In fact, the reality is that sometimes our mood is impacted by our circumstances, but a lot of the times there's this thing called GIGO, G-I-G-O. Now, let me ask you guys, in the chat, does anyone know what that stands for? If anybody can tell me what G-I-G-O or GIGO stands for in the chat, you get 27 points. Hey, Carl, you go, buddy. It stands for garbage in, garbage out. You get 27 points. The points aren't good for anything, but you get them. So the idea is it's an old computer programming term. And basically what it means is that if you write a computer program with bad data to begin with, then when you run the program, what's going to come out on the other end is also going to be bad data. It's garbage in, you get garbage out. And I was reading about this concept just a couple of weeks ago, and it made me think maybe some of what I was experiencing was because I had been consuming too much garbage. And I did. I started every single morning by reading the news on my iPad, and I would read 15, 20 minutes of news. And as you know, the news is kind of terrible right now. Then I would go to Facebook, and I don't hide friends that I disagree with. So I get to see really, opposing arguments, and just especially the comment sections. Tell me if you guys agree. Like, it's kind of hard to scroll through Facebook these days and stay in a good mood, isn't it? Remember when it used to be kids' first day of school, or this beautiful, steak that you just grilled? Now it's just maybe it's just me, but it's a lot of, yes, it's overwhelming, right? So I decided in that moment to delete the Facebook app off of my phone, and I deleted the news app off of my iPad. About 4 days later is all it took. 4 days of kind of shifting that garbage in, garbage out, and I started feeling better. So I want to ask you guys, what garbage are you consuming? What do you think you could maybe give up for 4 or 5 days to see if it has a positive impact on you? Maybe it's social media. Maybe it's a television show that you're watching. Maybe it's the news. My wife told me, and I told her this wasn't me trying to get her off of her phone, but she told me after listening to me talk about this, she eliminated some stupid game app off of her phone, right? Okay, so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So I want to encourage you, consider what you're consuming, the garbage, and see if you can replace that with something positive, And in fact, before I go on to lesson 2, what I'd like to do, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'd like to open it up and see if there's anyone who would consider volunteering to tell us about a time when you weren't in a good mood. Maybe you thought it was your surroundings, but then you were able to get past that. Or maybe tell everyone about the garbage that you would consider giving up. Is anybody willing to volunteer for that?
I can share.
Okay, thank you, Cher.
So I'm a late adopter to Game of Thrones and have gotten started on Game of Thrones. I have learned that can't be the last thing I watch or do before I go to sleep, or I don't know what dreams are going to happen. And then the next morning I'm rather aggressive, and I tend to be more positive as well. And it's killing me because I just want to watch it, but I can't watch it right before I go to, and this has been a new discovery. Like literally earlier today, I was on a call. I'm like, I don't know, I'm a little punchy today. And I think there's other things happening too. But I did watch Game of Thrones while laying in bed last night. And I'm like, oh my God. So when you said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the garbage in my brain. It's Game of Thrones. It's such an aggressive show, right?
It is. It's a wonderful show. One of the best shows on television, but incredibly violent. And what was I watching the other day? Oh, there's a show called Yellowstone. And everyone in it is a bad guy. It's like you can't root for the good guys because everyone's bad, and you're wondering which ones to watch. But your example reminds me of back when I watched Breaking Bad. I didn't watch it once a week. I consumed it like you, binge watching it. And I just remember being in a bad mood for like 3 weeks. That's a great example. Thank you, Cher. Does anyone else have something they want to share?
Lisa, and I've caught myself, I really can't watch a lot of the news, and because it's just, I can feel it affecting my outlook and my attitude. And I really got an eye-opening when I was really snarky to someone that I shouldn't have been snarky to, and had to go back and apologize. And she just wanted to make sure that my mental state was okay. And so I knew that I needed to back off the news and everything that was happening. And so I get snippets here and there, but I can't watch it all day long. So
yeah, the news is an interesting one because we feel as members of society, we need to stay informed.
Yeah.
We need to participate in the conversation, but it can be, really dark.
It just gets overwhelming.
Cher, did you have something else you wanted to add? Thank you, Lisa.
The other thing I typed it in the chat, was music. I love music, all genres actually, and not having that commute to and from work, I don't get that anymore. And there have been days I've been like to the point where I'm kind of done coming to this office right now. And I'm like, why? I'm like, because I don't have my commute here. So I think that's a piece of it. I mean, I think there's many other things to it too, right? Again, it's not just Game of Thrones, but it's this also that I've been missing that. And so I've been finding little spots to plug it in a little bit more, to have a little bit more of that, where it's not just something I do in the evening, but I can plug it in throughout the day to kind of help fill the mood.
Well, Bobby Bones recently wrote a book, and one of his suggestions is that for every chapter of a Netflix show that you binge watch, you read 15 minutes from a book. So when I watch my daughter sitting on the couch watching the Kardashians or some other garbage, right, I ask her to read between every single episode. Maybe that's something you could do, or maybe listen to Caleb for 10 minutes, right, after watching Game of Thrones. Definitely don't make it the last thing before you go to sleep. All right, you guys are awesome. You guys are awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, I skipped this awesome meme that I wanted to share with you. It's okay if you fall apart sometimes, because tacos fall apart and we still love them. So I thought I should share that with you guys. All right, let's move on to lesson number 2. Oh, this is one of my absolute favorites. This actually comes from a chapter in my own book. Basically, here's how it works. So I'm coming home from my out-of-town trips, and my family is like super cautious. They don't know if it's daddy coming in the door, if it's the bear, right? So they don't really like jump up and greet me. Besides, I have teenagers, so that doesn't happen. And that's fine. I brought that on myself. I don't blame them. But there was one member of my family that always greeted me with a great deal of enthusiasm, and that was my Australian Shepherd, Maggie. Just imagine this black and white fluff ball, and she's got these big blue eyes, and I barely come in the house with my suitcase, and she's just all up in my face, right? And she's like, and like, you can't pet her enough. Like, she's just freaking so excited to see me. And she's like, she literally lifts her little lip up like Elvis, like she smiles at me and she's wagging her tail. And I thought, man, that makes me feel so special, right? That just feels so good when I get to see Maggie. You guys have dogs? If you've got a dog, tell me about your dog in the chat. Tell everybody what your dog's name is or what kind of dog you have. And if you don't have a dog, hopefully you've been around dogs, or maybe you have a cool cat. I don't know if that's a thing. I'm sure it is. I don't know if this will translate for cats. But I decided that I was going to take a page out of Maggie's book, and I was going to act like a dog. And so I decided to mock this trait. And on that day, and again, this was a while back, my kids would come home from school one at a time, and I would just get up out of my office. I've worked from home for 10 years. So I'd get out of my office. Normally I would finish what I was doing and then see them at 5 o'clock. But on this day, I decided to get up, run out, and I was like, how are you doing? How was your day? Did you have fun today? What'd you have for lunch? What are you doing tonight? You want to go play? You want to play catch? What do you want to do? Like, I literally pretended to be my dog. And the reaction that I got from my kids was so fun. They were like, whoa, Dad, have you been drinking? Like, they were freaking out, but they really enjoyed it. And it led to these really cool 15-minute breaks where we had conversations, And then my wife got home and I did the same thing to her, and she's like, what's going on? And the kids were like, he's so crazy today, Mom. So it was so much fun. And I decided that I would do it again this weekend. So on Saturday, I figured, I'm talking about it today. On Saturday, I wrote ALTD, act like the dog, on my wrist. And when my kids came in, I treated them the same. It was very fun. My wife plopped down on the sofa, and we have another dog now. Her name is Luna. She's a little black sheepadoodle. My wife plopped down on the couch, and this is what happens when she gets on the couch. Luna jumps up there and licks her face. So I jumped up on the couch with her and I was like, hey, honey, good morning. What are we doing today? She's like, you're doing your dog thing, aren't you? So she totally caught me. So I figured, all right, all bets are off. I just snuggled up into her neck until she finally patted me on the head, and then I licked her face. We had so much fun, and it's such a fun little thing to do. I hope you guys consider maybe being a little bit silly. It's kind of like how Buddy the Elf is when he meets Santa, right? That's kind of how I was acting. So this weekend, though, I realized that I could take that lesson, and there was another side of it that I hadn't really thought of before. I told you we got a new puppy, so we have Maggie and Luna. My next door neighbor on this side has a golden doodle, and get this, the golden doodle's name is Ramen. Yes, you heard me right, Ramen Doodle. And they got a new puppy named Ridge. And then over on this side, they've got an old lab, and they just got a brand new puppy named Stitch. And Stitch is like a husky mix, right? And none of us have yards. So about 7 o'clock, we text each other and like, play date. And the dogs just come over and they just all run around. And here's what I noticed about the dogs. Like, they don't care that they're different breeds. They don't care that they're different ages. They don't care that they're different colors. They just see a dog and they just want to play, and they just have fun, and they don't care about the things that make them different. And I thought, that's a good lesson too, right? When I go on a walk with Maggie and someone comes up to pet her, she doesn't look up at them and worry if they're a man or a woman, or if they're religious or political or gay or straight or Democrat or Republican or black or white or purple. She just loves them. And I thought, man, wouldn't the world be a better place if we could take a page out of their book and treat each other that way? So lesson number 2 for you guys, act like the dog. It reminds me of the movie Up. Remember Pixar movie Up with the old man in the house and the balloons? There was a character in Up called Doug. He was a dog, and he had a collar that allowed him to talk. And one of the very first things he says is, I have just met you and I love you. Man, wouldn't it be cool if we treated each other like that? So hopefully you guys will act like the dog. Don't. Somebody pointed out that that's maybe not the best lesson because we don't want to sniff each other's butts or just poop anywhere we want. But generally speaking, these are some pretty powerful lessons we can learn from dogs. All right. So I'm going to open it up. Would anybody be interested in telling us about your dog, or something that you've learned from your dog that you feel like could be translated into human life to make the world a better place or make you a better version of yourself?
Yeah, I'll chime in here. My dogs are my loves.
Angie's got her dog with her. That's awesome.
I do? Who? What?
Well, Angie's got her dog in her lap.
Angie. Oh, okay.
But Cynthia, please tell us your story.
So I have a puppy, and he's 9 months, and he's so annoying. And you forget, like, when you get an older, I had 2 of them at 6 since we lost one of them. And so I have a 6-year-old and now a 9-month pup, and he's just so annoying. But he's got the best personality. He's always happy. He gets in trouble and he wags his tail and he licks you and he's happy. And I say to the kids all the time, man, you know what? If we just took King's perspective and just let stuff roll off of us instead of taking it all personal, like, look how happy he is. He's always happy. He could have just destroyed my toilet paper roll and got yelled at, and he's like, oh, hi, Mom, happy to see you. So I've taken away from him that to your point of don't sweat the small stuff, like, just be happy. Just choose to be happy. It makes life way better.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else?
Well, this is Maisie. She's my 3-year-old troublemaker, and I had to pick her up because she was about to get hyper. But I would say a couple things is just, know how to have fun and to realize that you can make anything fun, and also how much love she's willing to get. And, it's just all about getting the love and being appreciative.
That's right. Thank you, Angie. Thanks for sharing that. Somebody told me once that every animal has a job. Chickens have to lay eggs, cats have to kill mice, whatever. And dogs, yes, they might herd the cattle, but mostly their job is just to be a little ball of love. So, okay, now let's move on to lesson number 3, face your fears. Now, there is a lot of anxiety in the world right now. I'm not a therapist. I don't believe that I can solve someone's problems with a webinar or a book. So for people who are truly suffering from anxiety, I encourage them to get help. That said, I want to give you guys a little technique for overcoming fear and dealing with anxiety, something that I found was really, really powerful in my life. So you guys know that I'm a Jeeper. You saw the Jeep. What you don't know is that this is actually my 7th Jeep. I've been driving Jeep since I was 16 years old. There was a stint when I first had babies that I got a Durango, and then we did a minivan for a while. But now, okay, back to the Jeep. Now, here's the cool thing. At this point in my life, I had the money to really modify this Jeep. And so that means it's got a lift kit and skid plates and big tires and big wheels and a winch on the front and all these lights for night wheeling and all this stuff. So it's really ready to go off-road. And this has kind of been my dream car. It's like, it's like my midlife crisis car, right? And I was really into to Instagram. There's this Jeep community on Instagram where people show all the mods they do to their Jeep. They show where they go off-roading, all this stuff. So I'm following all these Jeepers, and then I decide I'm going to make an Instagram for my Jeep. I know that sounds completely stupid, but I did it anyway. And the funny thing is, like, my Instagram has like 400 or 500 followers. My Jeep has like 2,200 followers. It's so dumb. But I'm on Instagram and I'm showing off the Jeep, and something happened that I didn't really expect to happen. People started making fun of me. They're like, "Oh, you've got this big, beautiful Jeep. It never gets dirty. You never go off-road. You're a mall crawler." Like, that's the derogatory term for someone who, modifies their Jeep and doesn't actually use it the way a Jeep is supposed to be used. And I think that's dumb. Like, if you want your car to look a certain way and you don't want to go off-road with it, that's fine. But I did actually want to go off-road. My problem was that I was incredibly phobic of some of the places where you take a Jeep really off-road. Like, I've done dirt trails in the woods and stuff, but to go up into the mountains, scary. In fact, I had one of my, I had a panic attack several years ago when I was in a bus from Durango, Colorado to Silverton, Colorado. And if you've ever been on that road, it's just a sheer drop. And I got all sweaty and panicky, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So I don't do cliff roads. But I'm driving my Jeep, and I meet this guy, and he's got a Jeep. And remember when you were a little kid and you'd meet somebody and they say, "Hi, I'm David." And they say, "Hi, I'm Jeff. You want to be friends?" "Yes." And then you just go play. Like, adults don't do that, right? But we kind of did. I was like, "Hey, that's a cool Jeep." He goes, "You got a cool Jeep too." And I said, "Yeah, thank you." And he says, "Hey, would you like to go to my wedding?" Like, what? You guys heard me right. He invited me to his wedding within knowing him about 10 minutes. It turned out that he was about to go to Colorado. He was going to get married on top of a mountain. And the only way to get to the top of the mountain was if you had a Jeep. And he saw me as someone who could maybe get his photographer there. So he's friendly, but he's also got this ulterior motive. So he's like, "Come with us. We'll go to the top of the mountain. We're going to get married. Then we're going to go to Moab, and we're going to do some real wheeling." And I'm like, yes, this is the dream come true. And then I remembered about my phobia, and I started to freak out a little bit. I told my dad, I told this guy I would go with him, but I don't want to hold him back. Like, these are real off-roaders. Like, I don't know what I'm doing there. I'm going to be so embarrassed. What if I have a panic attack? And my dad said something really important to me. And he said, He said, courage doesn't mean you're not afraid. It means that you face your fear and do the thing anyway. And when your dad says something like that to you, you can't back out of the dream trip that you've always wanted to do, right? So I went, and we got to the top of the mountain, and there were no real cliff roads on that particular mountain. That was fine. But then we went to Utah, where we went to Moab, and we got there around dusk, and they wanted to go wheeling. And they took me to this place called Hell's Revenge. And the entrance to Hell's Revenge, let me describe this to you guys. Think of like this giant rock jutting out from the desert, and it's like 70 feet tall and maybe 15 feet wide. And it's like a sheer drop on the left and a sheer drop on the right. You know what? The best way to describe it would be like taking a Hot Wheel toy and driving up the back of a dinosaur toy. Okay? So that's kind of what this entrance was. And I flipped out. I had the dash cam running, and I'm going to show you guys my panic attack, if that's okay. All right, here we go. And again, there's some censored profanity, so I apologize for that in advance. I'm working on that. All right.
Now I am looking at a white arrow in the middle of the trail. Just aim it, put your Jeep in the middle of it.
Okay, it's starting to freak out a little.
All right. So I want you to watch how much things tilt. And that's like how, it's not like it's flat. It's not a flat dinosaur back. It is tilting.
What gear should we be in, Dave?
That's my dad. My dad's in the passenger seat trying to keep me calm. This is my buddy Jeff's dad, who realizes that I have just stopped. I put it in park, and he's coming back.
Hang on.
Okay, what you hear is my buddy Levi. Levi and Dave were behind me. They got out of their Jeeps and came up
18 feet wide.
on foot.
I know.
Are you looking off the side, Bill?
Yes, I'm looking off the side, Dad. Look at it.
Do you feel like it's going to fall off the edge?
I can't feel my face. I can't feel my hands. I'm just afraid my body is going to panic.
Like, hear the anxiety.
Black mark. There's 4 feet from the edge of that to the edge. That's how much room you honestly have. It's fine.
Yeah, a ton. This looks like a ton of space, doesn't it, guys?
I see it.
I don't see anything. I say I see it. I don't even know.
When you get about where he's at,
Yeah,
don't
that's what
worry
I'm
about it.
freaking out about.
That's about a 27-degree pitch. You just did 33. You're plenty good.
Now, Levi is not like some
Dave,
beautiful
is this
mind.
automatic or
The
am I-
gauge said it was 27-degree pitch.
That's what I thought. Okay. All right.
All right, here we go.
You're good, though. You're good.
Watch how much it tilts.
Keep straight.
Just talk to me.
Yeah, just keep going straight. Perfect. Yeah. Straight at Carl. Go to your right a little bit. Doing good.
Look at the tilt. Now I'm tilting the other way. Oh,
My God. What am I doing? It's all right, bro. It's all right. Keep looking at me.
keep looking at me. I'm so embarrassed by this, but people.
Hey, I don't know. It's all right, bud.
My dad's so nice. It's all right, Boog.
All right, I'm going.
Yeah, just keep going straight. Perfect. Yeah.
All right, what do you guys think of that?
Go to your right a little bit.
Crazy, right? So the reason I wanted to show you that was because, I mean, you got anxious watching it. Yeah, like I was flipping out, right? So here's what I want you to know. Because I powered through, I actually ended up having the greatest week of my life. Like, it was the best time. It was bonding with my buddies. It was doing something I had been dreaming of doing since I was 16 years old. And one of the other outcomes of this was when I got home, I thought about the entire journey, and I ended up writing a new book. This isn't a shameless plug, I promise. But I wrote this. It's a children's book about a little off-roader who gets made fun of, and then he goes to Moab with his friends, and he has a panic attack. Does that look familiar? Does that kind of look like what we were driving over, right? And so this has been one of the most cool projects of my life, and it's all because I faced that fear. And I feel like if you don't get out of your comfort zone, if you don't do something a little scary, then you don't get the results on the other side. But I have since that happened, I have learned a really cool technique that I use when I go off-roading now. And this comes from the American Psychological Association. This is a paper written in 2013 by Allison Wood Brooks of the Harvard Business School. And Allison says that the physical responses to anxiety are the same as the physical responses to excitement. Think about that for a minute. Think about something that gives you anxiety. Or no, think about something that you're excited about. Maybe you haven't seen a loved one in a while and you're about to see them. Your heart starts to race, your pulse quickens, you're excited, right? Or maybe you're going to ride a roller coaster. You're at Disney and you're going to ride Space Mountain for the first time and your palms start to sweat, right? That's excitement. Or maybe you're going in for your first kiss and your face is flushing and your skin gets a little tingly. These are all some of the same feelings that you have when you are dealing with anxiety. And so Allison says that if you reassess the feelings of anxiety and call them excitement, it can help you power through the fear. Because what anxiety's job is, its job is to protect you as a human being, to protect you emotionally, protect you physically. And so it's really trying to get you to stop doing whatever it is you're trying to do. And if you try to calm down, I mean, come on, guys. Have you ever said calm down to someone who was excited or anxious? Or have you been upset and someone's telling you to calm down? It's maybe the dumbest thing you can say to somebody who's anxious, right? So instead of trying to fight those feelings, instead of pushing them down and trying to get past them, what Allison suggests is that you tell your mind that what you are experiencing isn't anxiety at all, but instead it's excitement, right? I'm anxious to go talk to the boss about the raise. Oh, I'm nervous. I got to calm down. No. I'm excited to go talk to the boss about this raise. I'm anxious about doing this webinar today. I'm really nervous. No. I'm excited to do this webinar for you guys today, right? And so this little trick has helped me so much. I just wanted to pass that along to you guys. And so with that, I am going to once again invite you guys. I'm going to open it up, see if you guys would be willing to maybe share either a time when you were feeling anxiety and got past it, you were courageous and what the results of that were, or maybe tell us about something that makes you anxious and how you might consider repositioning that as excitement.
Yeah, mine's kind of silly, but it's roller coasters. And I love them. I love to go on roller coasters, but there's always that anxiety or what we can now call excitement right before you go that
Yep.
you're, I'm going to fly off the roller coaster. But yeah, so I always have that anxious feeling right before you get on the ride and you're in line and it's just building. And then it's excitement. It's not really anxiety, but yeah. But
Well,
mine is roller coasters. So I can always feel it building.
I love that. When my little girl was just tall enough to ride some of the bigger roller coasters, man, it was a real challenge to get her on them, and then, she'd be so anxious, so upset. And then she'd get done. She'd be like, "Thank you, Daddy. That was the best ever." And then we do the next roller coaster and she'd be like, "No." I'm like, "Don't you remember how that made you feel?" And here's the thing. When I ride roller coasters now, because I've ridden hundreds, it was one of my big things. I don't feel that anymore. And I actually kind of miss it. Yeah. I miss that anxiety and I miss that excitement. So thank you for sharing that, Lisa. I appreciate that. Angie, did you say zip lining? Is that something that gives you anxiety?
Yeah, it gives me anxiety, but it's so much fun once you actually do it. Like you get excited up until that point and then you step up and you're looking down and you're like, what in the world am I about to do? But then once you do it, it's like, oh my goodness, it's beautiful and it's just so much fun.
Thank you. Yes. So guys, I really want to encourage you, get out of your comfort zone, do something that scares you, because the ultimate reward for overcoming that fear is way better than avoiding it and sitting still. So, all right, with that, I am going to wrap things up. But before I do, I would like to challenge you guys. And here's my challenge. For the next 10 days, I would like to challenge any of you who are willing to grab a positive book, self-improvement book of some kind, maybe something that will help you with your relationships or your career, and read 20 minutes a day every single day. Write on your wrist the lessons that you learn, and then act on those lessons. Now, WICT has bought 10 of my books. So if you do this challenge and you give me a call or shoot me an email saying, hey, David, this was my experience with your challenge, I'll get you a copy of one of my books. In fact, I'll throw in another 10 books. So if all of y'all want to participate, you can. But the challenge is real simple. Just read 20 minutes a day for 10 days, act on the lessons you learned, and then let me know kind of what everyday lessons you learned and how it impacted your life. So I hope you guys will consider doing that. Here is my contact information so that you can reach me. The best way is just email. That's my phone number, so you can text me and say, hey, David, I want to talk to you about this. Also, let's connect on social media. I don't know if you guys have done this or not. I actually included my, my Jeeps Instagram there too, if you want to follow those adventures. I know that's silly, but somebody said you should probably include that. And with that, the last slide is just, I think this is my podcast. So if you kind of like these lessons, Everyday Lessons is also a podcast. It's a free podcast on Spotify and iTunes. And I try to publish a new lesson every week. So with that, I will open it up, see if anyone wants to just comment or ask questions or share a story. I know I already went over my time by about 4 minutes, but if you guys want to stick around and chat with each other, that'd be great. If you need to bail, I totally understand. So with that, I'll open it up. This is so much easier in person. There's not this little awkward moment right here.
Well, I just want to tell you to thank you very much for being real with us, because so many speakers, it's almost becomes rote with them, and you're real, and you've shown us 2 videos of things that we go through in an everyday life, and so I really appreciate you being real with us and just keeping it real. So thank you.
That means a lot to me, Lisa. Thank you. I was real hesitant to show the panic attack because that's a little scary, but people seem to eat it up. So,
well, and we all deal with it, and it's real, and it needs to be spoke about. So yeah, and know that everybody has them.
Well, thank you. Thanks for saying so. Anyone else want to say hello? All right, well then I guess I'll turn it over to you, Cynthia, to wrap things up. I think I did record this so I can get you a copy for your YouTube channel or wherever you want to put it.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you everybody for joining us. David, it was a great message, good info, just to take it down to the basics like Lisa was just saying, so thank you for that. Thanks everybody for joining. Pay attention to your calendar for what's coming next on WICT Wednesday. Bye everybody.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you.
Great job, David.
Thank you.